3 stocks for July. Yeah, I know it's late, it's almost the middle of the month, but better late than never, right? And you know how I like to do these stock reviews. I don't really care about picking stocks too much. I'm all about the process, trade management. That is 90% of the game. The actual stock pick doesn't even matter that much. It's only 10%. So what we do in these videos is go over how I've been trading in the last month, so you can get an idea of how that trade management works, which is again, the most important part. And if you've been watching this series of videos every month, then you know that I use the NASDAQ All-Stars to trade. And the All-Stars is a momentum trading system. So you can see here, what it does is take the stocks in the NASDAQ 100 and rank them by their momentum. And the way it ranks them is with something called the TSI, the Trend Strength Indicator. And it's pretty simple. The higher the number, the more momentum the stock has. So once a month, what we're doing is rotating into the top stocks in the NASDAQ. And those top stocks in the NASDAQ are what we call the All-Stars. You get it? Very clever. And through that rotation and tracking momentum, we stay with the stocks that are continuing to trend higher, and we get out of the stocks that stop trending. And the hope is to consistently make money. But this system is more than just something that ranks stocks by their momentum, because that is basically just a good way to pick stocks, right? Where the real magic happens in this system is in, once again, the trade management. That's why I emphasize it so much. Once you know what stocks are trending hard and have high momentum, how do you actually enter and exit them? That's what we're going to go over in this video. And right now we actually have access to the NASDAQ All-Stars open. So it's not only me using this system, a bunch of our fallible members who are signed up for it use it too. And if you're interested in using it, make sure you sign up before this Sunday at midnight, because at that point we're going to close it down again. And we'll keep it closed for most likely the next quarter, at least a few months, just because we have a lot of people in there already, so it's easier to manage like this. And I just gave you a brief description of the All-Stars. If you really want to learn more about it, I actually made a video that goes into it more in depth, and I'll link to that video up here and down below in the description and comments. And then linked off of that video is where you'll actually see the page where you can go sign up. But I think it's important you watch that video first if you haven't, just so you understand the system better. You don't want to get into something when you don't know what it is. But definitely check it out, see if you want to sign up, because this is the best time to start a portfolio, because it's the slow summer months. You kind of want to get used to trading a system and seeing how it works before the markets pick back up in the fall. So like we always say, paper trading is a good idea to start out. But okay, our first stock is our favorite stock, Workday. One of those tech companies that, you know, don't make much money, at least the last time I checked. In fact, I'm pretty sure they just lose money. But it doesn't matter, because they have future potential, so investors push up their stock price. And it definitely doesn't matter to us because we're momentum traders. So that's what we're looking for. Fundamentals be damned. So we got into Workday way back here on December 3rd. And we actually recently just exited on July 1st. So finally, for those of you who are tired of hearing about Workday in these videos, it's gone. Will it come back? Probably. We'll see. But during that time period, we made a solid 27%. Not bad. And the stock did pretty well. And I know in the last video we were talking about this earnings coming up and we weren't sure what was going to happen. Looks like they surprised to the downside, missed their earnings, which the stock dropped a little bit, as you can see up here after that. But it recovered and it kept going higher. And if you zoom out a little bit, the chart looks, you know, pretty good. So why did we exit? Well, we exited because in the TSI rankings. So top 5, that's good news, right? If it was still up there on July 1st, we would have stayed in it. But by July 1st, Workday was all the way down to 14. Its TSI dropped. It's now at 12.38. And that 12.38 is what gives it a rank of 14. Because again, the whole point of this is that you're trying to stay in the highest momentum names. And we only have 5 positions in the portfolio. So when something drops so far down the list, we don't want to be in it anymore. It's time to break up. Time to go our separate ways. We want a new and improved stock. One in the top 5. So that's what happened to Workday. So this whole rotation concept is pretty simple, right? But what's actually really important is how you do this rotation. Again, going back to why trade management is so important. So if you have a system or a strategy, that system or strategy has to have rules, right? That you're gonna follow day in and day out. And that will tell you what to do in certain situations. So for our list of stocks, right, with momentum, we need a rule that tells us when we're gonna exit something. How far does a stock need to drop down this list before we exit it? Now for us in this system, we get out of a stock once it falls below the top 10. So we try to stay in the top 5, but if something drops to like 7 or 8, we're okay with it. Our limit is 10 right here. Once it drops below that, that's when we rotate. And then another rule you need with a momentum system like this is how often to actually assess what level a stock is at. Because these TSI readings, they're gonna change, right? They're gonna change every day. But do you wanna be trading in and out of these stocks every day? No, absolutely not. That's why we only check the ranking of the stock once a month. And that's our rotation period, right? We're rotating every first rest of the month. So if on that rotation day the stock is below that top 10, that's when we cut it. Now, like I said, it's important that you establish a cadence of when you're checking that, because if you do it too often, you're going to be in and out of stocks like crazy. You're going to chop yourself up. It's going to cost you a bunch of money in trading commissions. And it's also important to have a reasonable level. Like, we purposely did not make it so that we exit a stock if it falls below the top 5, because again, that would cost too much trading. So what if something is ranked 7 on the list? It could still be trending just fine, and you could still be making money on it. In fact, if you look at this chart of Workday, it's ranked 14, but the chart still looks good. It's still trending pretty well. So there is no need for us to be super strict. Like, oh, if something is ranked 6, we got to get rid of it. No, that's okay. We got leeway up till 10. And like I said, with these TSI ratings, they're changing all the time. So back in April, Workday was actually at 7. And then by the time June hit, it was at 4. So it hopped in and out of that top 5, but we didn't have to get out of it because of that. And these are just an example of the type of rules that we put into this system to not only make it effective, because on average, this system makes over 30% a year, but to also make it very simple. We definitely wanted it to be simple to use with not much of a time commitment when compared to other professional momentum systems. Like another rule, we only hold 5 stocks. So only holding 5 stocks reduces a lot of your work. It's a lot fewer stocks to track versus some portfolios that are like 15, 20 stocks. And actually, if you look at other professional momentum strategies, for their portfolios, they hold 20 to 40 stocks. And some of them have even more stocks than that too, which, okay, holding that many positions might make sense if you have tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. But it's a lot more work because it's a lot more stocks to manage. Think about all that trading. And at that point, in my opinion, this is debated in the momentum community, but with 40 stocks, you're so diversified. It's like, why not just buy the index at that point? I personally like to be more concentrated, which is why I like the 5 positions like in the All-Stars. That way you're in the best stocks, and when they move up, you're actually getting a significant return that's going to affect your bottom line. At 40 stocks, it's just, you're doing what the market does. The market has to move up, and you're getting the average as opposed to the real winners that are really moving faster. But everyone's going to trade momentum differently. And I'm not saying the 40 stock thing doesn't work. But another problem with that type of system is all the rebalancing that has to go on. Because with momentum systems, you want a number of positions, right? And you want your capital equally allocated to all those positions. Because it's not like a discretionary strategy where you're going to put more into this one because you're more confident in it. You're just distributing your capital equally. So in order to keep your exposure equal to all these different stocks, you got to keep rebalancing. And that means you're buying and selling shares so that your exposure is the same. Because stocks move up and stocks move down, right? So your exposure changes. And some of these professional systems rebalance every 2 weeks. Imagine how much buying and selling that is on 40 stocks. And imagine how much you got to calculate with 40 stocks to figure out your exposure. It's a mess. Of course, you eventually got a spreadsheet to do it, but still, it's too much, at least for me. That's why with the All-Stars, we let that rebalancing take care of itself once a month when we rotate. And I'm talking a lot about rebalancing here. I mean, it's kind of an advanced topic, but it's really important when you're a portfolio manager and you're looking at total portfolio construction, which is what professionals have to do. So of course, we are taking those concepts, but simplifying them in this system. So like I said, the rebalancing happens pretty naturally, and then it happens once a month when we do the rotation. So yeah, there are times where we're not going to be perfectly split up among those 5 all-star stocks. We're going to have more exposure to some of them and less exposure to others. But sitting with that uneven exposure reduces a lot of work. And when you backtest it and see the results in real time, you see it works really well anyway. So for the people who are starting a new portfolio, we have this little calculator right here. Because, depending on when you get in, we might have sold some shares because we hit some targets, or, we just might not have a full position on. So you can see right here under this percentage of total portfolio, it tells you how much to put into each when you're starting out. So it's supposed to be 20, right? In a perfect world, but none of these numbers are perfectly 20%. We even have 7% cash. And the reason why all those percentages are different is because we have more trade management rules in place. We have stops, we have targets, just risk control in general, which is really important. But again, it rebalances at the first of every month because when you enter a new position, you're putting 20% of your portfolio into it once again. But okay, hopefully you didn't fall asleep during this whole rebalancing conversation. Like I said, it kind of gets into the weeds with this stuff because systems can get super complicated. And that's why I like the All-Stars, because it's still professional grade. So it's taking all these concepts and applying them. And because we're applying all these things and treating it as a professional system, that's why it's getting that 30% a year on average return. And that's why we have a number of institutions and hedge funds that we made deals with for them to use this system because they wanted it, because it's great. So it's that professional grade system, but what we did is make it simple enough so that anyone can use it. Because like you just saw, I was talking about rebalancing. I'm sure people just walked away from their phone or computer or whatever they're watching this on. It gets complicated, but we simplified it and it still has fantastic returns. So it's simple and effective, best of both worlds. zeros, which is exactly what you want in the markets because markets are so complex already. When you try to use a complex strategy to fight that complexity, all you get is even more complexity. That's usually what happens. It's normally the simple strategies that are able to cut through all the market complexity. Got to keep it simple. All Stars does that. But okay, next stock, MercadoLibre, Meli. We entered this one March 1st, all the way back here. And from that point, we have now made over 37%. So this was another big winner for us, just like Workday. But we're still in it because check it out. It is still number one on the TSI list. TSI of 31, way above the next level at 25. And I don't really have much to say here. I mean, just look at this chart. This is what you dream of when you're trading momentum. You get in and the thing just takes off and doesn't stop running. That's basically what we had with Meli. And it's funny because back when I was a discretionary trader, I would worry about gaps like this one here, because what I would see happen is those gaps get filled or the stock just exhausts itself. You know, it takes a lot of buying pressure to push something up like this, to just gap up. But now, because I have this TSI list and I know Meli is the number one highest momentum stock in the NASDAQ, when you have that information, the way you look at price action kind of changes because these gaps turn into a more bullish sign instead of a sign that things are getting exhausted. So, you know, price action is a lot about interpretation, especially if you're relying on charts and stuff like that. So the TSI really changes that interpretation and makes it more effective. So it's great to have that measurement system and data in your back pocket. So we will continue to hold Meli for as long as we can until we either get stopped out if something bad happens and it drops, or it just loses momentum. If it drops out of the top 10 on that list, we will rotate out 1 month. We'll see what happens. Next stock is Qualcomm. This was a rough one. We entered 5-1 right here. And sure enough, soon after, the stock just completely shit the bed. Look at this drop. It was rough and it triggered our risk point. So on 522, we got out. I lost a nice chunk of money there. So as you can see, the system is obviously not perfect. It's not trying to predict the future. It's just giving you the best probability play. So of course you're gonna have losers. Qualcomm was a pretty big loser. That was rough. But Trump was tweeting against China with tariffs. Qualcomm itself got into some legal troubles. So you know, it happens. But the thing that really got me is that the system told me to re-enter on 6-3 right here. And at this point, like I told you, I just lost a bunch of money and I was not feeling up to getting back into this thing. First of all, I wasn't sitting right. And then second of all, I knew Trump was still tweeting against China. I didn't know when that was gonna end because that was hitting a lot of stocks hard. But when it comes to systems trading, you just gotta follow the signal, even when you think it doesn't make sense. So you gotta kind of disregard your emotions and just go and execute. And it's in these times, usually after you've gone through a string of losses, that it becomes the most crucial point to execute, because this is when people start missing trades. Because like I said, I didn't want to take it. And a lot of people, after you have a big loss, you know, you don't want to get back into the same stock again. And these are actually the things I talk about a lot in my psychology course. We give a bunch of examples like this and then how to deal with it. So you get the tools you need to follow your system or strategy. And actually, you know what? If you listen to me for this long, got through that whole section about rebalancing and didn't click off the video and are still with me right now, then if you sign up for the All Stars while it's open this time, I'm just going to give you that psychology course for free. And it's great because it's geared towards systems traders. All the tools and tips and tricks in there to manage your psychology are super useful when using something like the All Stars. Because I made the course, right? And I use the All Stars. So obviously it's going to go together pretty well. I mean, those psych tools work for any strategy, even if you're discretionary, but especially if you're systematic. But yeah, normally we sell this course for $300. But if you sign up for the All Stars during this time period, you know, before Sunday, just shoot me an email and remind me what I said, and I'll just give you access. And that's just a special bonus because you listened to me for so long, you know, even I get tired of listening to myself. The worst is when I have to go watch this video after making it. It's too much. But anyway, I managed my emotions, sucked it up, and entered. And I actually entered with a larger position because like I was talking about in that last 3 stocks video that we did last month, I had a whole chunk of money that I needed to put into my system. So I was entering with a larger position than what I exited with. And it's a good thing I took that signal because you see what happened. Qualcomm moved up pretty fast. So it moved up over 20% in just a few weeks. And actually July 1st, right here on this red candle is where we exited because once again, it was the rotation. So that was a great quick 20% gain. So I ended up making everything I lost back plus more. And that's what happens when you stick to your system. And the reason we exited Qualcomm is once again because it fell out of the top 10. You can see right here now it's down at 18. So the thing might continue to trend up, but we are on to better things, better stocks that are trending even faster. So we rotated out of Qualcomm and into CERN. This is our newest position. Look at this baby, ripping hard. Hopefully it keeps ripping. We'll see what happens. So far so good though, real pretty chart. And you can see right now that CERN is number 6 on the TSI list. TSI of almost 16. Now if you want to see all our positions in the NASDAQ All Stars and even get email alerts alerts and text message alerts about when we're making any changes, because you know, as I've said, trade management is the most important, then make sure you check out that video I was talking about. I'll link to it up above and down below in the description and comments. It'll take you to another video that is going to explain the All-Stars even more, so you know, you really know what's going on. I want you to know. And then on that video, you'll see a link to the actual page where you could sign up. And remember, it's only open until Sunday at midnight Eastern time. After that, we're going to shut it down for a few months, probably a quarter. So if you're interested, get in now, start practicing before fall hits and all the Wall Street guys come back from the Hamptons, because that's when the money starts moving again. Gotta get ready. Also, this is the last time we're actually offering the system at its current price. So the next time we open it up, the price is going to jump 50%. Like I've always said, it's a really good system and we weren't going to keep the price as low as we have so far. So if you're interested, lock in that price right now, because then you'll get it for the rest of your life, no matter how many increases we make. And you're also getting the live coaching at this price too, which I didn't mention yet, but the system comes with live coaching. But you can learn more about that in those videos. Just go check them out. It's a great system. Talk about it all the time. It's done good for me. It's done good for all our fallible members. It should do good for you too. So at least check it out. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you get an email notification for all our future videos. Publishing almost every day all about markets and business. So subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Stay fallible out there. Bye.